but I think like I have some ideas that we're really going to need to we're going to need to find time to put in if we do. I mean, we have options obviously, but I have some cool things that I think will help us.
Sammy, we are on the other side of 100 episodes. How do you feel about that? Do you like the other side?
It feels good, man. Parker, I'm excited to be here. Over 100 episodes in. We got another Fortitude and 15 coming to Elevation Nation right now. Bringing the energy, bringing the excitement. We got a ton of new things cooking for everybody, and I'm excited to continue to share our journey on elevating our nation and hopefully help some people along the way as we elevate ourselves. So it's been a heck of a ride. I'm looking forward to many more great, interesting conversations and insightful tips and tricks for people to help them conquer the real world. So let's do it, man. I'm pumped.
Yeah, that's what we're all about here on the Elevation Nation podcast and Elevation Nation in general. We are here to elevate ourselves, and hopefully you can get a little elevated along the way. So what's been going on with you? I know you had an interesting weekend that brought up an interesting topic for us to talk about today.
Yeah, totally. So this weekend, my lovely roommate and current guest of the week, Matt McPartland, you should check out his episode that we dropped on Tuesday. Super insightful, great guy. But he was out of town this weekend, and none of my DC friends seemed to be available to hang out. And I was really struggling with this concept of just being alone. I'm not...
Were you lonely, Sam? Did you feel
I was very lonely. I was very lonely. I didn't know what I wanted to do for the day. I didn't know what activities I could do or people to spend time with or what I should do. And I realized that a huge weakness I have is always wanting to be with other people. I like my alone time, like quiet after work, that's fine. But on a beautiful full day when I'm not chilling, I struggle to try to take action and do activities by myself. And it's something I really want to work on. So I wanted to talk about that.
That's so interesting that you say that, because you always say that there's so much that you want to get done during a day because you want to be productive. You couldn't find yourself being productive, or did you feel that you had to find something to do that wasn't work related because it was the weekend?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. I obviously could always find things to do, but on the weekend, I like to unwind a bit and do fun things and activities and not just fully grind on the work stuff, because I put in so much time and effort during the week. I think it's important to treat yourself and take a break. And it was, a beautiful fall, crisp Saturday here in Washington, D.C., and while I could have stayed inside and grinded out work, I wanted to do something else. And I realized that I'm very good at being alone when I have work to do or want to sit and read a book or unwind and watch TV. But when it's a beautiful day full of opportunity and possibilities, I'm not good at going by myself. And it brought me back to an interesting trip that our dear friend Miles Grossman took when he traveled by himself to go to London. And I thought about that for a second. I don't know if I could do it. And I realized that it's something I really want to work on, is how I can travel by myself, how I can explore by myself, have a day just alone doing things, right? I think it's easy to be alone and read a book or watch Netflix all day, but it's harder to go out and do things just by yourself and appreciating that time.
I think you have two things of being alone. The way I think about it is you have alone where you're actually alone, and it's kind of sad because maybe you don't have people around you, and you're there's a negative aspect of being alone. I'm alone. No, I got nothing to do. I got no one to see or whatnot. Then you have the other aspect of being alone where it's I'm alone. I'm going to cherish this time and make something of it. And I think as a young adult, we find the dilemma that, one, if you get the time alone, how do you think about that time alone? Is it negative or is it positive? And then two, if you have any time alone at all, taking advantage of it and figuring out for you, and I think it takes a ton of self-awareness, how do you want to make most of that time? And what are you going to do during, I mean, for you, it was an entire weekend alone, by yourself, I'll call it. I don't even know you were.
It wasn't the whole
alone.
weekend. I had my wonderful girlfriend, Sammy, hung out with me,
Okay.
even though I was grumpy. But there was a point. There was, she was busy during the day, all day Saturday, and possibly Saturday night. We weren't sure. And I was like, damn, I'm about to spend an entire Saturday, one of my cherished weekends, in this cool city and not get my ass out of my apartment. And that messed with me. And I was like, I don't know even where to go, what to do, besides just walk around. And so I realized in that moment that one thing that I want to work on for myself in terms of my self-awareness and my growth is figuring out how to embrace times alone, not just relaxing, but doing things. So.
Yeah, I mean, for you, it's interesting because I'm just going to go back to the point. You always want to be productive. So it's interesting to me that you found a challenge in being alone and not being able to find things to be productive.
It wasn't productivity, Parker. It was leisure, right? I didn't want to work on Elevation Nation, right? I didn't want to go work on my real estate investing. I didn't want to go work for my normal job. I didn't want to do those things. I wanted to find a way to relax, unwind, explore. So it wasn't productivity. Because I can always find a way to be productive during the workday. I'll always fill in gaps with ways to be productive. It was when you have an entire day that you want to take advantage of and you have no idea what to do. So you just sit on the couch. And that lack of productivity almost drives me insane. Yeah.
Yeah. So it gets back to the point that you can't just sit on the couch and watch a movie, or, I mean, maybe you were a little antsy. You didn't want to read a book or research. What I'll do sometimes is just like create a new podcast or whatever. But I think it's interesting because I feel like you would be like, oh, I'm going to go to the store and pick up some ingredients to make a really cool
I did go to Trader
meal.
Joe's. You know me well.
Yeah.
I did
and
go
pick
grocery
up
shopping.
But then cook a cool meal. Or I'm interested. It's like, it was a nice weekend. Why didn't you go out and walk around some new area or something? Do you think that you found yourself in a little bit of a rut? Was it something where you just were struggling to hold yourself accountable? Maybe your routine was off or something like that?
It is weird. Like, Elevation Nation, I didn't really tell Parker about this weekend or anything, but it is pretty uncanny how well you know me because, this past week, I was not in my routine. I didn't wake up. I didn't meditate. I've rarely worked out. I was not in a good routine. And I do think it had an impact on how I felt waking up Saturday, starting my weekend and feeling like, well, I got nothing done this week. I wasn't as productive as I normally am with my routine. I feel off kilter. I really do think like the lack of exercise did that. And now it's the weekend and I want to take advantage of this time and I don't know what to do. So, Parker, good call. You read right through me, man. It was a lack of routine.
I think, I mean, for you, it was definitely a lack of routine. I think what's really interesting about the concept of being alone is alone has such a negative connotation to it. I feel like one person who is by themselves and enjoys that time not with anyone else is truly really in tune with themselves and are very self-aware about what they want, how they feel, and can hold themselves accountable to make the most of whatever they want to do that day. I think the challenge is when you have that rut that you're in where you're like, dang, like I didn't do this thing today, or dang, I should have done this, or I was lazy as shit today. It's like, dang, you could take that two ways. I was lazy as shit today, but I enjoyed it. Or I was lazy as shit today and I could have been more productive in doing other things. It's how you think about your time by yourself, not anyone else. You can't allow others to, I guess, define or objectively like say, oh, you didn't make the most of your time, whatever. It's all in your head. It's all you. So
I think a lot of young people, though, struggle with that, right? Typically, most of us,
yeah, because you're looking at everyone else and how they're doing, making most of their weekend or their free time, right?
That's certainly part of it, is the social media aspect and seeing what all your friends are doing. I also think stereotypically a lot of young people move to cities where there's always things going around them and people hanging out and going out and doing this and that. And when you maybe don't have that group of people to go to, what do you do, right? You know, have you ever eaten a meal, just like said, I'm going to go out to dinner and just sit alone by myself, or go on to the movie theater, or like, what would you have done if you didn't have JJ or didn't have any of the guys to hang out with for a full day? Like, you can only walk around for so many hours before you need an activity or some end destination.
No, that's true. That's true. I don't know. I think it's defined on that day. I just think what's so interesting, what you brought up, is because I had the complete opposite weekend. I was so busy that I had no time for alone. I came back from Puerto Rico, went straight to my parents' place in Florida. Saturday flew to Baltimore, and then Sunday took a train to New York. Literally had no time alone to just like sit back and relax until I got home Sunday evening to like hang. And that was the complete other end, because I felt like I had so much going, so much to do. Never had time to just say, hey, like, relax. And that was a challenge for me too. Not that I didn't enjoy the weekend, but I felt I was overdoing things. And that, going into the work week has been like, dang, like, I was supposed to take my weekend to kind of take a step back and relax, but I had no time to do that.
Yeah.
So there's always two ends
there.
to it, There's always two ends to it.
Yeah. I think it's a fair point. It's a fair point. So I think, for Elevation Nation out there, this is probably one of those times where I don't think Parker and I really have the answer, because I'm searching for it. One thing that I'm trying to do to occupy some of my more alone time is I realize I don't really have a hobby anymore.
Not Elevation Nation, not having a podcast with 101 episodes now, or 102 with this one.
Yeah, it's not a hobby.
I think it's a hobby.
That's just part of my life now. It's
but
not
that's
like
a hobby. You think hobbies
it's not
come and
recreation anymore. No.
You think hobbies come and go?
I think they change what they are.
Huh. Interesting.
I don't look at what we do as a hobby. I look at it as me figuring out my life and entrepreneurship. But I'm talking about a hobby, right? Like, Parker, you have your running that you do, and I've been searching to try to figure out, like, all right, I want to give back to the community more. Shout out Sam Fitel. We're going to give platelets. We've been going and giving platelets at the Red Cross, donating blood.
So you think giving blood is a hobby?
No, I'm looking for ways to expand some of those buckets of my life.
What about cooking?
There's another hobby that I like to do. And I want to try to get into martial arts and train for a charity boxing match if they accept me. So, right, there are all these different things going on that I'm trying to expand in my life as I'm now 26 years old, to occupy some of that alone time now that I realize that it's a weakness for me. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to executing on those.
Execution. Good word. I think hobbies come and go, to answer your question, or answer my question earlier. Hobbies come and go, but the idea of what you're trying to get out of that hobby never goes away. So, real quick, Parker's perspective, all about loneliness. This was said by Oscar Wilde. Why do I know that name? It's an Irish poet. And he once said, I think it's very healthy to spend time alone. You need to know how to be alone and not be defined by another person. Alone time is where you can have the most... Alone time is where you can become the most self-aware. Understand where you spend your time. What do you end up doing? If you're looking for a hobby, where are you, spending, let's say you have 8 hours of free time in the day, alone time, where are you spending half of it? Maybe that can direct you to your hobby that you didn't even know you ever had. Whether it's looking at YouTube videos, walking and you're interested by this garden, or you had a conversation with someone at Starbucks for 20 minutes. Look back on the way you spend times alone, and maybe you'll pull some really key insights about who you are and where you want to go in your life. So that was to Sam and Elevation Nation, and honestly to myself as well. So Elevation Nation, episode 102. we're rocking and rolling here. We ain't stopping. The train is picking up speed. We're happy to have you on the train.
Hop on board. All right, Elevation Nation. Check out our episode this week with Matt McPartland. Wonderful, wonderful guy. Good soul, big heart, and a fun conversation. Ton of laughs. We talk a lot about Hamilton. If you like the musical Hamilton, check it out. And until next week, peace.